Part 3 of What World is brought to you by the United Motor System and these great General Motors divisions. Saginaw, safety power steering for easier, safer driving. Hyatt, high-roll bearings for faster, non-stop freight in modern industry. Harrison, air conditioners and heaters for your car. Temperature made to order. New Departure, world's foremost producer of ball bearings to make good products better in home and industry. And remember, wherever you are, you're only minutes away from famous General Motors replacement parts. Distributed through the United Motor System and its independent distributors and dealers.
In the next half hour, the marquee will be illuminated across the American desert at White Sands, New Mexico. Here the story is of men and missiles, Army missiles to be precise, and Army men. Men like Lieutenant Colonel Jim Hamill, scientist in uniform, who prays each night in the desert, not to the god of war, but to the Prince of Peace. But no day may come when missiles will be fired in an angry war of obliteration. From the Torrid Desert, 2,000 miles now to somewhere on the fertile peninsula of Florida. The General of the Army, John Medeiros, coordinates the fertile minds of science and industry and government in a tight team that races against time in the development of the Army's ballistic missile program. And beside him, the anchor man in this race, Wernher von Braun, the Army's top missile scientist who suffered the destructive mania of a dictator in Germany. Today, he enjoys the freedom and the democracy to develop a ship to soar through space. Army men and Army missiles, their sights set on the future. Let's take a moment from our man's story to visit a charming young woman with a most unusual story of her own, Miss Betty Skelton, an automobile test driver. Against the background of a roaring surf at Daytona Beach, Florida, site of NASCAR's International Safety and Performance Trials, you'll find this pretty petite young lady putting cars through their paces. As Betty will tell you, she is a test driver, not a race driver. And her job is to find out how to make automobiles safer and more comfortable to drive.
That's right, Dave, and I'd say that nothing has contributed more to easier, safer driving in modern cars than Saginaw safety power steering. I think I've tried about every conceivable test with it. I deliberately dynamited a tire at high speed and held safely to the road. I've tried swerving on and off a low shoulder and kept complete control of the car. I've maneuvered through difficult obstacle courses, too, steering with a touch of a finger, and in and out of a strong ocean surf with no effort at all. Now, these tests represent situations that could happen to you in an emergency, but I wouldn't recommend you try them. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't like to attempt them myself without safety power steering. And you know, it's just as important to me in my personal driving, too, because when I'm not test driving, I have the same problems as anyone else. And one of the things I like most about safety power steering is this. It takes no effort at all to turn the wheels, even while the car is standing still. And out on the road, you drive safely, relaxed, because power helps you control your car. Yet there's a secure feel of the road built into safety power steering that you don't find in other power systems. You know, recently I made a transcontinental record run from New York to Los Angeles, and safety power steering really helped. I wouldn't want to be without it, and I think you'll feel the same way once you try it. Take a demonstration ride in a new Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Buick, or Cadillac with safety power steering by the Saginaw Steering Gear Division of General Motors.
Picture it if you can. A man is always standing on one foot on earth, the other sprinting into unknown space. There have been men like this in our world for a long time, from Galileo to Einstein. They're a happy breed of men as they crack the barriers of infinite frontiers. You find them at the South Pole or exploring the unknown in a blackboard, or find them dreaming up a spaceship in their basement or in their backyard spinning through a telescope, or underseas or overhead. But for real, and for the first time on live television, you will see these human adventurers into the unknown shoot a whole family of missiles over a desert. This is not a hunk of the moon. This is their desert, their laboratory on Earth, for the men with mental vistas like flying saucers. This is the White Sands Proving Ground, New Mexico. Top secret, and confidentially in clear sight of the atomic mushroom, the first that shook the world, that weapon that burst over Alamogordo. No trespassing signs for 100 miles up the desert, 40 miles wide from mountain to mountain. No cameras permitted, except those of the wide, wide world today. And even for them, some actions must be simulated. All of this is under close security, guarded by MPs and barbed wire, and reinforced by sentinels scraping the sky, the Organ Mountains. Meet the men and missiles behind the barricade, men who think like an advanced contingent from Mars. This is the blockhouse, the nerve center of this adventure into space. U.S. Army men testing our guided missiles, steering their flight with electronic hands and brains, tracking their flight through the eyes of radar, testing the motor of a missile, its power thrust against a mountain, and the mountain fighting back the enormous stress and strain. Fire heat and desert heat, and out of the crucible a breed of cool men. W.B. Laidlaw, Major General of the United States Army. He's boss here, commanding the biggest all-land rocket testing station in the United States. 7,000 military and civilian personnel under him, with a payroll of $30 million a year. J.P. Hamill, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army. He's the research chief here at White Sands. Meet the family of the Army's guided missiles that stand guard over American bases over the free world. Begin with the live camera on the Nike, named after the Greek goddess of victory. She's being tested here to see how effectively she can do the job of building a wall in the sky against bombers. That's it, the job of a Nike, for wings and talons designed to conquer not only the enemy, but conquer insomnia, because she is paid by you to give you a good night's rest. But if the intruder is not overhead, but at your feet, another member of the Army's guided missile family goes into action called the Dart. The Dart carries a no trespassing warning against invading tanks. She flies just above the ground at high speed. Today we'll be shooting out across some several thousand feet of desert.
Target M4 tank, 2 o'clock, estimate speed.
They use special eyes for this game.
Up on target. Right, 15 mils. Elevation, down, 7 mils. Coming into range. Correction, right, 3 mils. Ready on target. Ready on missile. Hold on target. Stand by to fire.
There she goes. Watch her now, she's got a wiggle on there. Don't try to pick her up even if you are in a tank. She's a witch, all right. If she could talk instead of shooting off her mouth, she would whisper one word. Hide. Look at that. Hide on the other side of the mountain, but she can see you there. If she can't, there's another member in her family that can. It's her brother, and he's called Honest John, perhaps because they can take him anywhere and do almost anything with him. Here's Colonel Jim Hamill. Colonel, what's the most important missile in the defense of the nation?
Unquestionably, the Nike guided missile system is the most important in the defense of the United States today. In the Nike system, we include both the Nike Ajax, which can kill a single plane with a single round with uncanny accuracy, and also the Nike Hercules, which, with its nuclear capability, can annihilate a complete squadron of aircraft.
As a student in the religious schools and holding a degree in physics as well as in law, as you do, What are your personal thoughts about your work at White Sands, Colonel?
We here at White Sands feel a very keen and personal relationship with that old adage about there being no atheists in foxholes. Although we test literally hundreds of missiles, we always feel a certain tension as we come to the countdown, and a certain relief, and I must say humble awe, as we see the missile perform as we design the experiment. Now, we are privileged here at the Proving Ground to witness daily advances in the frontiers of virtually every field of scientific and engineering endeavor. Sometimes the progress is small. At other times, it seems that what was impossible has been accomplished. We realize fully that it's our responsibility to perfect our Army-guided missiles so that no enemy nation will ever dare to challenge their capability. Knowing our missiles as we do, we realize fully that their use in war could lead to the annihilation of the human race. And therefore I can say honestly and sincerely that we pray daily that these missiles will never be fired in anger. But to get back to the Honest John, he's ready now to meet the target, we hope, on the other side of the mountain.
And there are little Johns trailing after their big brothers, small stuff with a big punch. Today, for effect, they're firing the same range as the Honest John. A family of the U.S. Army's guided missiles making their first appearance on live television. The Army studying their behavior at the White Sands Proving Ground in New Mexico. But it's a bigger family, those guided missiles, bigger in size and more of them. We'll be back in a moment to see the giant missile called the Corporal fired in the face of our live cameras. A visit with a rocket expert who's been heaven sent for the moon. You will find these newborn ideas at work these days whenever you hear the sound of a train whistle or the rhythm of wheels on steel rails. Well, modernization is the keynote of railroading today. From the New Haven Railroad Yards in Boston, John Cameron Swayze gives us a report on how the railroads are getting together with the trucking industry to improve freight service.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Operation Piggyback, the latest in door-to-door freight delivery. These loaded truck trailers will ride piggyback to New York tonight on railroad cars, and tomorrow morning they'll be pulled off and hauled directly to their destination. Now in loading and unloading the trailers, new equipment developed by Piggyback Incorporated is speeding up service. As each unit is backed on, a sliding platform automatically aligns the wheels and centers the trailer. Adapters on the trailer axles engage support rails and guide the trailer into position. It rides suspended on these rails, secured by built-in tie-down clamps and shock absorbers to save wear on the trailer and protect the cargo. Another new development that ensures faster service is the use of Hyatt high-roll bearings on all of these piggyback cars. These trouble-free roller bearings eliminate hot boxes and delays en route. At Hyatt's test laboratory, where these bearings are subjected to conditions far more severe than normal road use, high rolls have proved they will operate perfectly for more than 3 years without inspection or additional lubrication. In trailer-on-flat car operations in all parts of the country, such as the Pennsylvania Railroad's daily service from the East Coast to Chicago, Hyatt high-roll bearings are helping to provide faster, more dependable freight service. Another General Motors contribution to railroad progress from the Hyatt Bearings Division, manufacturer of precision bearings for all industry.
It all began with a few tar paper shacks in the desert, multi-million-dollar Army Ordnance Proving Grounds at White Sands for guided missiles. In a year or two, the Army thought they would abandon it. That was back in the fall of 1944. The Fateful Fall, when the Germans let loose a rain of fire over London with vengeful missiles called V-1 and V-2. This is it, the dead and historic guided missile. The Vergeltungswaffe 2, translated as Revenge Weapon Number 2. The V-2 that pounded London and Antwerp. Side by side to the American Army's guided missile called the Corporal, the V-2 looks even more moribund, if that's possible. Here's a first on live television. A camera of wide world looking down on the nose of the Corporal. And it's just as live as the camera is. In a few moments, it'll be launched over the desert and into space. She's 40 feet long, weighs about 6 tons, and flies like a bird. The trigger that will shoot it off is here in this blockhouse control room. These men view it safely through a television monitor in the blockhouse. Above their heads is fortunately a reinforced concrete ceiling 18 feet thick. Protecting their bodies from side blasts are concrete walls 12 feet thick. But for real protection, we recommend an electronic jump a half a continent away. And at this moment, you are now somewhere in Florida to meet Dr. Wernher von Braun, one of the world's leading rocket scientists, now employed as a director of development of operations of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency at Huntsville, Alabama. Now, that's a big mouthful, but Dr. von Braun has more to say about rockets and space travel after we put a few down-to-earth questions to the commanding general of that same Army Ballistic Agency, Major General John B. Medeiros. General Medeiros, what's the mission of the Army Ballistic Missile Agency?
Well, as presently stated, the agency is set to develop certain weapons in the long-range ballistic field. We hope to do that just as fast as the good Lord and our efforts can accomplish it. To do this, we always have to have one being served up to our customers, one on the fire being cooked, and one new recipe being concocted as preparation for a new dish.
What's all the cooking for?
Well, the purpose of the cooking, of course, is to help the United States to keep ahead of any competition in the missile field.
Do you think we're ahead of Russia?
That's a question I never answer in public.
All right, sir. General Medeiros, what could be the result of another world war?
If we should find ourselves engaged in total war, it would be a war of such vast complications and implications that I think we would find civilization back in the Dark Ages someplace, or even behind that. In that case, the little frame memento that's over one of the Secretary's offices in Washington will be true. It contains a bow and arrow with the label, "The Weapon of World War IV." But I don't believe that will happen. If we stay alert and smart, we can create and maintain a situation that establishes a big war as an obvious losing game for both sides.
Thank you, General Medeiros. If I may turn now to Dr. von Braun for a moment. Dr. von Braun, you were obliged to work under Adolf Hitler. Considering only for the moment the working conditions, how is it for a scientist to work under a democracy as compared to that dictatorship?
Well, you enjoy this unbounded personal freedom, and you know you're working for a worthy cause. I got into rocketry through an early interest in astronomy. I thought the idea of space flight was a worthy cause indeed. In 1932, before Hitler had taken over, the German army offered me an opportunity and the necessary funds to work on rockets. In those days, the very thought of Germany unleashing a war would have been utterly absurd. So I felt no compunction whatsoever in accepting that opportunity. Later, one of the grievous problems with us in Hitler's Germany was that the longer this thing dragged on, the more evident it became to many people that Hitler's cause just wasn't worthy. But by then, you found yourself tied up in that machine, having to work for something that you didn't believe in yourself. It was pretty rough.
About the future of rocketry.
I'm happy that all this is over, and I'm proud to be an American citizen now.
Well, I can understand. About the future of rocketry, Dr. von Braun, I presume you mean space travel there. How near is the future when man will be able to take a trip into outer space?
Man has been out of space already, if you are ready to accept that term for a man who has been flying in a rocket plane at well over 120,000 feet altitude with more than 95% of the atmosphere beneath him. Animals have even been rocketed up to 85 miles altitude and recovered alive. The next major step in the conquest of space is a satellite rocket, at first unmanned. Several of such satellite rocket firings have been scheduled for the International Geophysical Year, which will begin the 1st of July of this year. We may presume that the United States will not be alone in trying this. I would guess that in about 5 to 7 years, we'll also have manned orbital flight.
Will spaceships be part of a common form of travel someday, just like the airplane?
I think this is a matter of definition. If you want to call any supersonic vehicle traveling through the fringes of our atmosphere a spaceship, then the answer is yes. But if you mean weekends on Mars, the answer is no. I believe that during this century, voyages to the moon and to the nearer planets will be more in the nature of expeditions to Antarctica. The question arises, of course, whether spaceflight will ever pay for itself. Just like during the early stage of aviation, military funds will be necessary to start the show on the road. In the long run, however, I'm convinced that spaceflight can and will pay its own way. Just imagine the tremendous commercial possibilities in the use of orbital space stations as communication and TV relays, or as testing laboratories in the most perfect vacuum and under zero-gravity conditions. Or just remember that about $2 billion are lost in this country every year due to inaccurate weather forecasting, a situation which can probably be drastically changed once the development of the weather on Earth can be systematically studied from the vantage point of a space station.
One more question, Dr. von Braun. Why do you want to travel into space?
We shouldn't always ask for an immediate purpose or a visible payoff of research. The fundamental motive for any exploration is curiosity, and to predict what follows in its wake is beyond the capability of man.
Well, now I think I understand the motto on your wall, which read, as I remember, research is like saving. If postponed until needed, it is too late to start. I think they're starting again now at White Sands, their research into the future. So thank you, Dr. Wernher von Braun and General Menders. And this is it. This is the chute of the Corporal, the Army's guided missile. The proven weapon ready in case of ground attack, but also the forerunner in rocket development leading to voyages into outer space. There are lots of things to get ready on a range 40 by 100 miles.
All stations. This is range control. This is range control. Stand by for checkout. Fire command control, ready. C station. Check radars, please.
Just a second, range control. Going over now. Locking in. Radar is ready.
Telemetering.
Reaching range control. Stand by.
Telemetering ready. Photosonic, are you ready?
Let me swing here. Photosonic ready to go.
All stations standing by. The range is ready.
30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Radar 3 on track.
At C station, they're tracking down the course of the Corporal.
Radar 2 has interference. Someone is triggering the beacon. Stay with it, 5. Hold it on there, 4. Clear pulse, 2. Stay with the missile. Stay with the missile. Clear up, 4. Stay with it, 1. Speed it up a little bit more, 5. Keep with it. Stay with the missile. Come on, 4. Stay with it. Stay with the missile. Don't lose it. Don't lose the missile.
Progress on the bird. H plus 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51.
A trip to the moon? Not quite, but if you were a passenger aboard this missile, this is how part of the Earth would look just seconds after the takeoff.
7, 8, 9, 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
This is an actual view of the Earth, taken from a moving missile. This is a sight that no man has yet seen with his own eyes. Army guided missiles today, but one day, God willing, the guided missile will enjoy a new look. Peace on Earth. And with peace, the deadly missile will grow up to be the friendly rocket for a happy breed of men. One foot on the Earth, the other springing toward the unknown. And with each passing year, man will further explore his own universe and adventure into his next-door neighbors beyond the horizon. The world stands out on either side, no wider than the heart is wide. Above the world is stretched the sky, no higher than the soul is high. Peace.
Part 3 of Wide Wide World has been brought to you by the United Motor System and these great General Motors divisions. Saginaw, Hyatt, Harrison, and New Departure. The General Motors Corporation and NBC wish to express their appreciation to the Freedom Foundation at Valley Forge for the George Washington Honor Medal Award presented for Wide Wide World's production last March 4th of Birth of an American. The citation called it an effective portrayal of people at work and play in a free land. Be with us again 2 weeks from today when the live television cameras of Wide Wide World bring you Flight, the story of man's conquest of the air. Much of the story will be told from the sky by means of airborne cameras. You will see an actual flight, a 1909 Blériot, first plane to cross the English Channel. See recreations of actual dogfights between Polkas, Spads, Nieuports, and Sopwith Camels of World War I vintage, all flying and all engaged in the classic maneuvers that developed the airplane as a weapon of war. In Palmdale, California, live pictures from a parachutist as he falls through the air. You'll visit the control tower at New York's busy international airport at Idlewild. Watch a B-52 refuel in midair. See gliders soaring over the dunes outside of San Diego, California. And a daring acrobatic exhibition in delayed parachute jumps. You will see from the air the launching of fighter planes from the Navy carrier Essex. And at Wright Air Development Center in Dayton, Ohio, some of America's leading scientists give you a glimpse into the future of flight. All these and many other features 2 weeks from today, March 17th, at this same time, on Wide Wide World. This is Bill Wendell speaking. This has been an NBC production.